Part 1 of Bleach's second season was without a doubt one of the most thrilling arcs in terms of hype for the Bleach fandom. The excitement was at its peak, given that the anime had returned after nearly 10 years hiatus, and so the atmosphere was full of hype with each episode and every new event in the anime. And what truly amplified this excitement, guys, was Kubo's involvement in the production, his deep engagement in every little detail of the story, character designs, and even the additional scenes. And of course, we must also acknowledge the role of the director at the time, Taguchi, even though I didn't like some of his things that he brought over from Akuma Drive into Bleach. But once I read the interviews between him and Kubo and his general comments about the behind scenes of the work, especially regarding the story, I really appreciate his input. For example, he was the reason we got to see conversation between Aizen Sasuke and Yhwach. He was curious to know how their encounter would go, and once he asked Kubo about it, Kubo went back and personally oversaw the writing of the scene. And thanks to that, we got to learn so much about what happened between Yhwach and Aizen. And Taguchi was also directly responsible for us seeing all the first generation captains with their names and appearances. As he said, at first he only wanted two shaded characters designs from Kubo, but it ended with Kubo sending him the full names and designs of every single one of them. And of course, we all still remember how the appearance of that squad literally caused a quake among the fans. It was one of the most anticipated things. We, especially those who had read the manga and saw that scene in chapter 511, felt how incredible it was. Naturally, our curiosity pushed us to want to know more about them. Until now, we only know their names, the divisions they were in, and a brief flashback at the start of episode 7 that showed a bit of the battle that happened 1000 years ago between Yhwach and his army against that squad. That's why, guys, in this video we're going back to these mysterious characters and trying to answer a question that popped into my mind while rewatching their appearance. The question is, why didn't we see some of the noble families represented in that original squad? Yes, we had Chika from the Shihun clan, but what about the others? Especially considering that we're talking about the founders of the Gotei 13. And those who know the story of the nobles know that the ancestors of the 5 noble families were the ones who started this story in the first place. Then, thousands of years later, a man named Yamamoto was born and established this organization called the Gotei 13. And so, why weren't they involved from the beginning? Or is there something else going on? And to put you guys again in the context, when the original Gotei 13 appeared in chapter 511, many, including myself, believed that the classic divisions like Squad 6, 2, and 10 would be led by captains from the famous noble families like Kuchiki, the Shiba, and the Shohin. And that did happen with the Shohin, but not the rest. So this assumption was based on the general nature of the Gotei 13 as a squad that includes many nobles. Byakuya Kuchiki is the head of the Kuchiki clan and captain of Squad 6, and before him his grandfather Ginri held the same role. Yorichi Shohin was captain of Squad 2 and the head of the Mitsukido. Isshin Shiba was once the captain of Squad 10. And Kyoraku, who comes from one of the most prestigious noble families, was the former captain of Squad 8 and he is now the Gotei 13's head captain. Soifon is also noble from the Fawn family. Okitake was noble too. Even among the vice captains there are nobles. Byakuya's father was Ginri's vice captain and Kiraizuru is also noble alongside with Omaida. And Nanao as well. And even if we look at the list of the Kinpachi, we'll find that Azutaro Soya, the 8th Kinpachi, he is also from a noble family. So all of these guys made me deeply curious and led me to ask that question. And in my personal opinion, we have confirmation that neither the Kuchiki nor the Shiba were part of that squad in its original generation. And we could even say that Tsuneyashiro wasn't one of them either. True, we never heard of a captain from that family in either the past or present, but we do know some information about Chokinada, for example, that he was once a Shinigami in the Gotei 13 before he killed his wife Kakyo and got expelled. However, guys, there is a possibility that the 5th noble family which we know nothing about, not even its name, might have had a member who was a captain of one of those squads, because if one member of the noble families, Chika Shohin, was present, then it opens the possibility for a member of the fifth family to be there as well, since we don't know the name of that family. Especially guys, if you notice, the original Gotei 13 members had distinctive clothing. Many of them wore outfits that actually hint at nobility, like the gloves we used to see on Byakuya's hand during the Soul Society arc, or even the gloves Yorichi's brother wears now. I mean, some of the first generation captains also wore similar things, like the captain of the 5th Division Danjiro Obana, or the 10th Division captain Otogawa Furuki, and the 12th Division captain. These are all captains wearing gloves similar to the ones Byakuya used to wear. Some even have accessories that seems to be made of gold, like the jaw guard worn by the 9th Division captain. I think his name is Intitsu Kamui, or the serious facial features of the 3rd Division captain, who looks like a strict teacher. All of these traits make me believe that many of them were actually nobles. Yes, Yuabach did describe them as killers with no mercy, but that doesn't mean some of them weren't noble. That's just about their nature as a fighters, not their background. And yes, some might indeed be from the Rekongai, like the 13th Division captain Sakahuni, whose name refers to an area in Rekongai. And usually those who name themselves after such places are just criminal spirits from those zones, like Zaraki Kinpachi. Zaraki is actually the name of a district in Rekongai. One other note, guys, I tried searching for the meanings behind the names of the noble families we already know, like Shiba, Shohin, Kuchiki, and Tsuneyashiro, in hopes of finding a link to any of the names among the original Gotei 13. But honestly, I couldn't find any strong connection. For example, Shiba means a wave of will or wave of determination, which is a huge indication of the will that Shiba have to move forward despite obstacles, starting with their ancestor and ending with Ichigo. As for Tsuneyashiro, I found it could mean something like eternal bond through time, which speaks volumes about their strength, especially considering what happened in the past with Ryu and how they preserved secrets for ages. However, while searching for the other names, only Otogawa Furuki caught my attention, specifically family name Otagawa, which includes the kanji for king, so the full name could be interpreted as something like Royal River Path. And so given his appearance, he is most likely a noble. But is he from the unknown 5th noble family? We can't be sure about that since we don't have any information about that family. Now, regarding the absence of the Kuchiki in Shiba clans, I think the Kuchiki simply didn't want to take part in that Gotei 13 because its policies at the time didn't align with their principles of pride and honor. I believe once the Gotei 13 policies started to shift, they decided to join. As for the Shiba clan, it's known that through history, they suffered neglection due to actions taken by the original ancestor in his clash with the ancestor of the Tsuneyashiro family. So perhaps that neglection caused them to avoid participating in the early Gotei 13. But again, guys, I go back to the idea that the original Gotei 13 might have been a group made up of characters from noble families in Sereji. We already know from Kubo himself that Yachiro Unohana's father was the one who named her Ritsu. And if he was her biological father, then that's a strong proof that she was too a noble. In the end, guys, what do you think about this squad? Do you think that among these characters, we actually have a member of the unknown noble family? Tell me guys about that in the comments and see you in my next video.